right, and we are back to my 15-minute snappy chats, and I'm super excited. It's morning in Sydney, and I have the wonderful Siera. Is that how I pronounce it, by the way?
Yeah. Siera,
Perfect.
yeah.
It's funny, we talk so many times, and I'm like, how do I pronounce your name? This happens to me every time, by the way, on my live snappy chats. But this is what it's all about. We're live, we're free falling, and it's going to be great. I'm Christine Bell. I'm a customer strategist, and I'm not going to be talking about me today because we're going to be talking about something that's really, really important, which is how can we learn and grow from each other in business? What I found, which is why I started the snappy chat, is that it can be a really, really lonely ride to be in your own business, especially if you're a one or two man band. It gets very isolated to some extent, having been in business for 8 years. And what I've found, especially on LinkedIn in the last 1.5 years, is I found a whole new community of wonderful friends actually now around the world, including you, Siera, through networking. And it's been amazing because I'm learning and growing and feeling so much more empowered by having a good, fantastic network around me. So with this in mind, I'm really excited to have the beautiful Siera here with me today. And we're going to be talking about how we can learn and grow together based on her experiences. And Siera, I met you, I think, about a couple of months ago networking. And then we had a great chat. And then you did the most amazing intuitive reading on my business a couple of months ago. And it was out of this world. You're using words that I use in my business personally that I'd never even told anyone. And you were just literally throwing them right at me. And I just knew, I could feel internally that you are so connected. And it was talking straight to my heart from something higher. And so I really appreciate who you are. You're a wonderful soul. I'm so excited you said yes to being on my snappy chat today. So with this in mind, please tell us a little bit about yourself, Siera, and what you're all about.
Sure. Thank you so much for that very wonderful introduction. I am Siera Sambrosky. I'm in the United States in South Carolina, but I work with people all over the world. I started business consulting, and I've worked with all different kinds of industries, sizes, again, all over the world, like 20 years ago now. And then I had gotten interested in holistic health and really taking that holistic approach, understanding that everything is connected. We are our business, whether you're one person or 100 employees. If you're the owner, that business is yours. And so really incorporating that there's personal things that go on that affect our businesses for us. And then, as you so mentioned, I am an intuitive. And so it really helps me to be able to help my clients be able to really pinpoint and hone in exactly what they need to work on that's going to have the biggest impact in their business, whether it's on the personal side or on the business side.
And I love that you do that. And I must admit, the reading you did for me was outstanding. You literally hit the head. Is it the head on the nail? The head on the nail on the head. I can never remember. Head on the nail, I think it is. That correct?
Yeah, nail on the head. Nail on the head.
There we go. This is my Danish English thing. It's I always mix the words up. I always. It is 100% happening. It's like 25 years of living abroad, and I still do it. It's my own English dyslexia that my husband calls it. Anyway, it's so great to have you, and thank you for introducing yourself. So please tell me about a challenge that you faced personally in your business and what you learned from it and how you grew.
Oh, man. I've had a lot of challenges. I've had different sort of iterations of my business. As I mentioned, I was just doing business consulting before, then, other things. But, I think for me, one of the biggest challenges, and this is going to maybe sound counterintuitive to people, is that I actually do too much. And I think that honestly has been one of the hardest things for me to try and temper down, to be more responsive rather than knowing, having a plan. I like a plan. I'm an excellent project manager. I see the whole big picture. I know all the steps and I want to just fire right through them all. And so it's really been a big challenge to me. And I see it with a lot of other people too. This constantly feeling like you need to be doing. And you actually burn out, first of all. Yeah. And second of all, it's discouraging on another level because you feel like I got the plan. I did the strategy. I did the 10 steps that were supposed to take 2 months and 2 weeks. And it doesn't really get you anywhere any faster a lot of the time. And so it becomes this very disheartening thing. And the reality of the situation is that we need to remember, just like in our conversations and the relationships that we have with people, we have to stop and pause and listen. We have to listen to our business, listen to what the response to our actions have been. Don't get so fixated on wanting to achieve certain things and move through the strategies and all that. So that's certainly been my biggest challenge.
And you know what? I totally resonate with that challenge, because, every day I write a long list out of a to-do list, yeah? And you get fixated to some extent going, I must make it happen. I must let it happen now. It must, otherwise things are not going to happen. I'm not going to be successful. And it's like, you kind of lose yourself, at least from my perspective. I can lose myself a little bit in the doing, rather than, like you said, just come back, which is why you're so wonderful to work with. It's like, come back and just ground. And I have a tendency to go in my head and go off, rather than just stay in my body. It's my big challenge. So it's a big one in terms of sitting back and going, you know what? Especially when you wake up and you're just not quite feeling like it's quite right today. There's nothing wrong with you. It just doesn't feel quite right. And there's something in you that suggests that perhaps you should sit back and not do anything. But then you go, but I need to make money kind of thing, or I need to get back to this person. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. All of that, and the reality is that really comes from that survival mentality. It really comes from being disconnected to our own worth and value. And we feel like we have to be doing all these things to be able to sort of hit those dings and have this sense of accomplishment, because that's how we actually move forward. When, like I said, the reality of the situation is that it's important that we learn to be able to sit and listen and honor. I see this so much with, and you could probably even speak to this more. I see this so much with people and their social media and their social media strategies. There's so many stats out there that tell us you need to be doing, at least 4 posts a week on 3 different platforms, or whatever the standard is now. But people struggle to come up with content, and they're like, it feels so grueling, and then you're losing that authenticity. You're losing the energy. There is energetics to everything we do. And so then you have this very constricted, heavy, you're just putting out content that maybe doesn't really align with you. And I know that's something that's important to you too, that alignment.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because energetically you can actually tell, depending on your energy that day, whether it's something you've done out of stress and must do it, and how it actually, I've noticed how it actually does on LinkedIn versus when you just go, you know what? Let me just feel into this. And this morning, I feel like putting this out. And I know most people told me I should have a plan and I should map out for a month what I should put in. The truth is, I do not plan my content very much. Sometimes on Sundays, I'll go, I think Monday, Tuesday, I have an idea what I want to put out, but I still have blank spaces for the other days with a question mark, which means I don't know what feels quite right. And usually it comes in the morning, and you'll be surprised how I cut down my time on LinkedIn is that, at least in terms of putting content out, is I kind of write it the same morning. I'm very impromptu these days. And that's supposed to learning. That wasn't something that just happened. It was a bit of a learning curve.
Yeah. And some people hate that. Some people are like, I'm too busy to be doing it every single day. And I think, again, it really just comes to listening to yourself, no matter what these things are, whether it's so many sales calls, so many follow-up emails. If you're not in the right frame of mind, if you're not in the right energy about that, people feel that. It feels forced to them, and they recognize it. They may not be conscious or understand why the interaction with you didn't feel great, but they'll know. And then that sets this tone for all of the relationship and all the rest of the interactions you have. Now you got to try and make that back up.
And it's so true. There is this invisible energy that we all admit. We all have a unique energy, don't we? And it's how we admit it to the world. And how we admit it really depends, back to your point, in terms of how grounded are you? Are you making sure every day that you're grounded? And I must admit, I put my hand up. I can easily run off with my head, and I have to make a specific effort to just come back to my grounded stage. And I can tell when I do, I slow down as well, which is what I'm doing right now, versus when I started this interview this morning. So it's also that just being aware of noticing our own energy, isn't it? In terms of where we're at every minute almost, if we pay attention.
Yeah.
And we can go with that. And I so agree. Sometimes I just go to networking, I used to at least, because I thought I should, show up, or go home. And that is exactly, come back to this survival energy that many of us still carry, and we don't even realize it, because we may not have grown up in a place where we went without food or shelter or etc. We might have had a very comfortable childhood, but we can still run a survival pattern. And it's so, I guess, invisible to some extent, when we can't see the external sort of manifestation right in our face.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's so much around that, right? Because the other side of it is that we have to have faith. We have to do things with a knowing, a belief, and expectation that we are doing the right things. We are putting the right energy out there. We are valuable. Our services are valuable. Our products are valuable, whatever it is that our business entails. And trust that that's going to come back. It's going to be out there. People are going to recognize it. They're going to recognize how you can help them or serve them. And every time we overact and we do all these extra activities out of a headspace, we're really then acting as if we don't trust that when we do what is really just authentic and aligned for us, it will come back to you. It's not always in our timing, but
I was just about to say that. Yeah. It's not always in the timings, and sometimes the timings can suck because they can drag out, and I'm definitely an example of that as well. As hard as that is, it's usually because there's more internal work to be done that needs to be seen, recognized, healed, cleaned out, released, empowered, allowing myself to become more of me and letting that shine through. But it is hard, especially if you've been going at business for a year and you're putting all your money into this business, your heart is in it, and then it's not working, and you're getting, you realize you probably are running in a survival mode, especially as things get more critical, and it's so hard to snap out of it. So what would be your biggest tip for how to move? And I know it's not an easy answer, but moving from survival into thriving, because that's what it's really about, and being okay when things are not going our way, to the point where we may have to change things, adapt things, be okay with some of the loss we're feeling because it hurts, when things aren't working out, and recognizing that, but still move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is a very complicated answer. I like I said, I am a planner. So like for me in particular, I may plan out my social media stuff when I have really inspired days. I may decide, okay, there's nothing else pressing that I need to do that needs my immediate attention today. And I'm really inspired to create all this content, and then I'll go and plan it out. But I leave myself enough space to be able to say, you know what, I just got my own little stroke. This feels really relevant. I just watched 4 other people talk about this. I have something to say about it. And so just bump it. Then you have it, but really honor yourself. I think the other thing is that limit yourself. Set boundaries with yourself, saying it does not serve me to make this giant to-do list and spend 12 hours so that I'm tired and exhausted for the next day, So say, I will only do what I can do, and start setting some boundaries for yourself. But certainly, like I said, it's mindset issues, as you already mentioned. It is about working on that survival instinct in some of us. It comes deeply into understanding, like I said, about our own worth. And then if you have some kind of faith, some kind of spirituality, it's a trust issue with that also. So there's a couple different things, but the most basic primary things that I would really suggest certainly are to go ahead and make a plan, make a schedule, and then give yourself grace to say, I had this scheduled for today, but I don't feel like that's right. And don't just hold yourself like, nope, I scheduled this and this is what my plan said. And this is, allow yourself the space to make changes, and set boundaries. really, and everybody says this, and it's because it works and it's true, we have to block off our own time. We have to manage our own energy, and time, which is just the most invaluable resource that any of us have. So
I love that. I love your advice, and I could go on all day for this with you, but we're on 15 minutes, so I'm not going to go on because it's a snappy chat. But I highly recommend everyone who's listening in, whether it's now or for the replay, please reach out to Siera. She's phenomenal. I've worked with her. I can't wait to work with her again in my business. So with this in mind, please tell us a little bit more about how people can reach out to you, and if you've got anything that you want to share in terms of your events, what you offer, etc.
Yeah, sure. Just real quick, LinkedIn is my name, Siera Sambrosky. You can see it on the screen there. I have one R. That's the important part. And then on Facebook and Instagram, a little bit different content. It's Siera Intuitively Knows. And the big thing that I would love to tell everybody about, and you did an awesome job of sharing. I have a podcast. It's pretty new, but I'm super thrilled about it. It's really deep, important conversations about how we can connect better to ourselves and discussing some of the things that cause us to be disconnected from ourselves and the ways that shows up in our life, in our business, in our relationships. So that's called Realigned Journey. It's hosted on Spotify, but it is distributed through Apple, Amazon, Google, iHeart, the big ones. So.
And you always advertise it on LinkedIn too, don't you? And your different channels, don't you?
Yeah.
And it was fantastic. We did one on authenticities and core values, and I loved it. So thank you so much for having me on. It was a fantastic conversation. And I just wanted to say thank you to Thomas and Randy. Randy, I agree. When you make boundaries, you have to hold yourself accountable to it. Michael loves the idea of impromptu content, which I totally agree with. I will say, to your point as well, I do actually, my videos, I do tend to record them in like 4 or 5 at a time on a day when I'm feeling really good. And then I actually leave them sometimes for a couple of months before I actually bring them out. But I just record them on the day that I feel good.
Exactly.
So thank you so much for all your advice, and Moses here as well. So thank you for people watching live and for people who are going to watch the replay. And most of all, thank you so much for you, Siera. I appreciate you so much, and I can't wait to catch up with you again soon. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me here. This was awesome.
Yes, it totally is awesome. I love